Your dad keeps telling you to put your money in fixed deposits and you think he's wrong. But there are three very specific reasons why Indian dads think this way. Once you understand those reasons, you'll not only be able to understand him better, but you'll also know how to convince him about stocks and other assets. We usually develop our ideas around money in our 20s. The first impression is always the strongest impression. Most of y'all watching this might have developed the idea of money and investments somewhere around 2015 to 2025. Now, if I blankly ask you, then what are the FD rates? Your first answer would be somewhere between 5 to 8%. This is an impression which is ingrained in you. From the very beginning, you learned that FDs provide somewhere around 5 to 8%, and there are other asset classes which can outperform this. Now, let's move to your dad. Even he developed his ideas around money in his 20s. But when he was in his 20s, the time period was 1990s. In the 90s, the banks were giving FDs at the rate of 10 to 12%. Yes, you heard me right. So you can see this chart, the interest rates in the 90s peaked around 12%, and today they have come down all the way to 5 to 6%. If you use the 72 rule and you are making 12% every year, you are basically doubling your money every 6 years. Now, a lot of you might think that that's too little or that's not much. In today's time, we expect 12 to 14% from equities, that too after taking so much of risk. In the 90s, you were getting 12%, that too with minimal risk. So their first impression around money is that FDs provide 12%, and they are better investments than any other asset class. That thing is ingrained in them. That is their first impression about money. So your dad's first impression keeps making him believe that FDs are a better option than other asset classes. But for you, seeing that FDs provide only 5 to 8%, markets automatically become a more attractive option, even if they come with certain amount of risk. This leads us to the second reason, risk in the markets. So what was your first experience with the stock markets? Most of the people watching this video might have entered the markets somewhere around 2020. The only memory that you have of the markets is the crazy bull run that we've had from 2020 till now. You can see this chart and realize that the only thing that you have seen till now is good times. Even if you entered the markets before this, let's assume you entered the markets somewhere around 2014. Even from that time, for the past 12 years, India has had one of the greatest bull runs of all time. Yes, there have been shocks, but they haven't lasted for that long. So the emotions that you have with the markets is either of FOMO, if you missed out on this ride, or of ecstasy for riding this wave along and making a lot of money. Now let's try to understand from your dad's perspective. Let's assume that he started investing in the markets in the 1990s. The very first impressions and experiences with regards to the markets for him was this. Your dad doesn't think that, oh, if my child will invest in the stock markets, he'll make a lot of money, and that shouldn't happen. It's the other way around. Your dad understands the risk of ruin and he cannot expose his child to this. The third reason is a very tricky reason. I'll be making an assumption which might be wrong, but I'll consider most of you watching this video and understanding this language as extremely privileged kids. The difference in the privileges which you have had is very different from the privileges that your parents have had. Yes, your parents had some things easy. Opportunities were more. Housing prices were less, they could accumulate land and capital more easily than in today's time, but they still had certain things which weren't as accessible as it is for you. Most of it is consumption and comfort. Your parents might have seen a time where they had to cut down a lot on their comfort just due to lack of money. When this happens, you automatically develop a scarcity mindset. You always think that money is not enough, and this reduces your risk appetite. On the other hand, for you, yes, there are challenges, opportunities are less, housing prices have skyrocketed, but the one thing that you haven't cut down on and the parents have given you the privilege to not cut down on is comfort. It is very easy for you to go out and have a coffee for 300 rupees, buy popcorn for 500 rupees. All these are signs of extreme comfort. When comfort is taken care of, you develop an abundant mindset, and this inherently increases your risk appetite. Since your parents have a very low risk appetite, they are naturally reluctant to invest in the markets where there is a lot of risk involved. You, on the other hand, having this risk appetite, are more comfortable in investing in the markets and going for higher returns. Now, these are just reasons. Just because there are reasons doesn't mean that your dad is right, but the fact that there are reasons means that your dad is also not completely wrong. These reasons help you understand that why your dad is skeptical of you investing money in the markets, but these reasons at the same time also help you explain to him that why investing in the markets makes sense. The interest rates will never be as high as before. You need to invest in the markets and have some exposure to equity. The shocks might come again, but you can survive those shocks with proper asset allocation. And the most important thing, your parents sacrifice so much just so that you can have the risk appetite that you have today. It doesn't make sense if you don't make use of that risk appetite and don't make any meaningful bets in your life. That doesn't mean you go tomorrow and put all your money in equity. Your portfolio should always be a mix of different assets, and you should increase and decrease the exposure of these asset classes depending on the situation. The markets have corrected sharply in the past few days. In the next video, we'll discuss that what should the strategy be to approach equity in the current scenario. We'll discuss whether we should increase or decrease exposure to equity, and if yes, how do we do so? Stay tuned for the next video. Thanks for listening.